الله بالخير. التوجه شرقا بات واقعا كرسته كيانات جامعة مثل منظمة شنغهاي للتعاون التي يعيد أعضاؤها ولا سيما الجدد ومنهم إيران صياغة قواعد الاقتصاد العالمي. انضمام إيران إلى منظمة شنغهاي للتعاون حدث يغير قواعد اللعبة وتبعاته عالمية. مستند لسكوت ريتر الكاتب والضابط السابق في سلاح المارينز الأميركي يقارب هذا الواقع الأمني والاقتصادي والحياتي. بانضمامها إلى منظمة شنغهاي هل تتحرر إيران من الأغلال الاقتصادية الخانقة مع الغرب؟ هل يعزز التبادل التجاري بين إيران ودول آسيا الوسطى الاستقرار في المنطقة؟ وهل باتت إيران مركزاً إقليمياً للعبور الاقتصادي الدولي؟ كيف أعادت إيران وروسيا والصين وغيرها من دول الجنوب كتابة قواعد التبادل الاقتصادي العالمي؟ وهل يسرع تفعيل مشروع ممر الشمال الجنوب عملية إزالة الدولرة وإبطال مفعول سلاح العقوبات الغربية الجائرة؟ نرحب بكم ونرى ونسمع أكثر من الأستاذة هانية تاركيان الباحثة الجيوسياسية الإيرانية الإيطالية في البعد الأقرب. هذه الميادين وأنا زينب صفار، خليكم ويانا. هانية تاركيان Iranian Italian geopolitical scholar, lecturer at المصطفى Institute of Islamic Studies in Italy. Hania, salam and welcome to Al Mayadeen. This is the Proximate Aspect and I'm Zainab Al-Safar. So good to have you, ma'am.
Salam, thank you very much for having me today.
Always a pleasure. Well, Iran is joining the SCO at a time of immense geopolitical change. According to our document, Iran's accession to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a game-changing event with global consequences. Hania, why it matters?
Yeah, it matters a lot because, first of all, I think we should have a broad picture of what is happening nowadays in the world. Because many analysts, they are talking about a transition from a unipolar order to a multipolar order. But I personally think that we are already in the multipolar order. I mean, the multipolar order is already here, it is already present. Because we had the Syrian war, which was something very important in the region, which changed everything, you know. So I think that this Syrian front and the Syrian war and the two fronts that we had in the war, so from one side, the terrorist groups supported by the West, and on the other side, Iran, Syria, and then from 2015, Russia. So we had these two fronts, and these put the basis for the new multipolar order. I think that this historical event was very important to put the basis for the multipolar order, because many countries in that occasion, they understood that Western countries and the West in general, and in particular United States, are not countries that you can rely upon and you cannot trust. They support terrorist groups, and as you probably know, in 2015, General Soleimani went to Moscow, and he talked with Putin and encouraged Russia to get involved in the battle against terrorism in Syria. Mm-hmm. And here also it was a very important event, because from that time, I mean, the year before, in 2014, we had the coup d'etat in Ukraine. So they changed the situation in Ukraine, and then from the 2015, when Russia was involved in the war in Syria, so Russia was completely. Russia completely understood that he cannot rely on Western countries, and I think this was a very important event that put the base for the multipolar order. And
yes, they were the Syria, foundations for this multipolar order.
Exactly.
Yes. But allow me.
Exactly. And the Shanghai organization, and also the BRICS, because today here in Tehran we had this meeting of Iran and BRICS countries. So these two organizations are very important from an economic point of view. So they are the economic foundations of the multipolar world. And the secretary of the Shanghai organization, he said himself that Iran is very important for the Shanghai organization, because Iran has decades of experience in, how can I say, getting away from the unipolar economic system. So
allow me to ask you here, Hanieh. Yes, allow me, please. Earlier, Iran was given observer status in the SCO, but the existence of U.S. unilateral coercive measures was an obstacle for Iran achieving full membership. Today, does Iran's membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization liberate it from its prior strangling economic entanglements with the West, and how?
Yeah, I mean, this, because the Shanghai organization and the BRICS organization, as I said, they are the foundation of the economic multipolar world. So we don't need anymore the West. The West and the United States in particular, they are not important now for us. So there are new emerging potential countries which want to be independent from an economic and a political point of view. So it is very important to encourage this kind of collaboration far away from the Western hegemony. And for example, President Raisi, he said in one of the meetings with the Shanghai Organization countries that it is very, very important to the de-dollarization of the global economic system, because the dollar and in general the Western economic system is just is a mean of hegemony by the West. And sanctions nowadays are not so much effective as they were in the past. Why? Because now the dollar is not so much used as in the past. So even American themselves, they say that nowadays the dollar is in decline, and other countries do not use the dollar as in the past. So even the Shanghai Organization countries and the BRICS countries, now they are trying to use their own
currencies. Their own currencies.
Currencies.
True. Hania, Iranian President Said Ibrahim Raisi, in his speech following Iran's SCO membership, expressed the policy of neighborhood and convergence as the basis of its foreign policy to achieve regional peace and stability. How can the SCO countries benefit from Iran's experience for more than 2 decades of successfully fighting terrorism, extremism, and separatism?
Yeah, as I said, I think that the main point was the war in Syria, because it was the place where Iran and the other forces of the axis of resistance, they show how they can how they can fight against terrorism, and Iran has always showed to be the regional security is the main issue for Iran. So other countries as well, they can learn from this lesson of Iran to have the regional security to be the first priority, and also to fight against separatism and terrorism, as Iran did in Syria and Iraq, of course helped by Syria and Russia. So this is a kind of example. In Iran we talk a lot about the school of Soleimani.
True. And some resistance movements also helped in the war against extremism in Syria. True.
Yeah. So, I was saying that we call it the school of Soleimani,
of General Qasem Soleimani.
Trying to unite forces, try to be, even in Syria we had Christians and Muslims fighting together against terrorism, and this is very important. This can be a role model, a kind of example for other countries, because of course in the multipolar world we don't have only Islamic countries, we have as well non-Islamic countries, but in Syria and in Iraq we saw Christians and Muslims fighting together, united against terrorism. And I think this can be a very good example of cooperation and,
and collaboration among the various communities.
In the new. Mm-hmm. And also President Raisi in the last Shanghai Cooperation Summit, he said that the Shanghai Cooperation is very important because we have many different civilization, which can help each other and cooperate with each other. So we don't have, like in the unipolar world, wars and conflicts. We don't need to destroy the
cultures of the others,
countries' identity. Mm-hmm. We can help each other.
So Hania, today we witness and live a new multipolar reality defined by entities such as the SCO and the BRICS and so on and so forth, whose members, including Iran, are rewriting the rules of global economic interaction. What are the benefits of Iran's SCO membership as far as you are concerned, and of being part and parcel of the multipolar world?
Because the countries of the Shanghai Organization can benefit from the experience of Iran in being an independent country, because Iran has suffered from decades of sanctions. So and Iran had to learn to be an independent country from an economic and political point of view. And independence in the multipolar order is a very important issue, because in the multipolar order we don't have countries which are subject to other countries, or they are not on the hegemony of other countries. We have independent countries which do their own interests, and they try their best to gain economical and political interests.
Now, Hani, it's a fact that Western hegemonic powers, by resorting to economic coercion and sanctions, have jeopardized the security and economic prosperity and the principles of fair trade in the world. That said, Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the Global Development Initiative, or the GDI, in 2021. Why is China's Global Development Initiative well received in the Global South and Iran in particular?
The Chinese foreign policy, they respect the independence and the sovereignty of other countries. They do not intervene in the internal affairs of other countries. And also they encourage this cooperation between countries respecting each other, which is something very different from the policy of the United States. So I think it's very natural that other countries like Iran, like Russia, like any other country that nowadays is trying to get far from the unipolar world, even Turkey, which is a NATO member, or even Saudi Arabia, which is one of the main allies of United States, but now they want to have a role, a position in the multipolar world, because they see that the unipolar world guided by the United States, it is in decline.
True.
China is probably becoming the main economic
hub
power in,
exactly.
in 5 years.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. It's a multipolar moment we live in now. Let me take you back to 1991. Iran was among the first countries to recognize the emerging independent republics in Central Asia. And by mid-1992, Iran had opened embassies in most of these countries. In the past years, as part of Iran's Look East policy, it considered the development of relations with its Asian neighbors, Central Asian neighbors, a priority. As neighboring Central Asian countries are trying to grow existing trade with Iran, in what way would such business relations and ties and communication with Iran help Central Asia stabilize the region?
We have a very important economic project, which is it is guided by China, but it's very important because it involves many countries of Asia in general, and in particular Central Asia. So it is the new Silk Road, as some people name it. Of course, the Central Asian countries are very important for this project to be implemented.
Exactly.
Because we need a new road of economic exchanges.
Talking about new roads.
And for Iran.
Yes, Hania, the international north.
And for Iran, it's very important to have stability in the region.
Yes, in this sense and in this context, the international north-south transport corridor, or the INSTC, is a project that could play a decisive role in changing the geometry of goods transit in the region, and all its branches actually pass through Iran. with the INSTC, Tehran is attempting to be a connecting pole between ASEAN, between Eurasian Economic Union, the GCC, India, Central Asia, the Middle East, the subcontinent, and North and East Europe. How would the Iran-Russia railway deal be a game changer for global transit and the rules of global economic interaction, please?
Yeah, because nowadays the main economical routes are from the maritime routes. So and they are actually they are mainly managed by countries like United States and European countries like UK, etc. But if the countries in Asia and like Iran and China and also Russia. They are successful in managing new economic routes, this can completely change the economic assets of the global system.
Hania, has circumventing Western sanctions been the only push factor for closer economic ties between Russia and Iran?
Of course, the experience of Iran was very useful, and it is very useful for Russia. And as I said before, Iran had to try alternative ways to be independent from an economic point of view. So, of course, the experience of Iran is very important from Russia, but it is not just about sanctions. I think it is something it's something more important, because the multipolar order is not just about economic aspects. We also have the geopolitical and the political and also the
cultural.
Even the cultural and the religious aspect. So nowadays, for example, we see in Russia they are trying to have their religious and cultural identity to be more strong, as Iran did with the Islamic Revolution. So I think that one of the aspects of the multipolar order is not just the economic aspect, so trying to have economic alternatives and political alternatives to the unipolar world, but also to try to have other countries find and strengthen their own cultural and religious identities, because this is very important when you want to fight against a very powerful unfortunately powerful culture as the Western culture, that we saw how the Western culture has destroyed the identities of the European countries. So if the multipolar world can also be can also help countries to strengthen their cultural and religious identities. So it's not just a matter of economic issues.
True. Hania Tarkan, geopolitical scholar and lecturer, thank you very much for this thought-provoking discussion. Pure pleasure to have you always, Hania.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Always welcome. لعل هناك مبادرات قيمة للغاية جارية على المستوى الأوراسي، والتي تمكنت من ربط الدول الأعضاء معا وتوفير البنية التحتية لتوسيع التجارة والتنمية الاقتصادية العامة، التي تستلزم توسيع روابط العبور والنقل وطرقهما في المنطقة. فقط من خلال احترام سيادة الدول يمكن لهذا التوسيع أن يساعد في تحقيق الهدف النبيل المتمثل في التقارب الاقتصادي. في هذا السياق لطالما أعلنت الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران دعمها الكامل وغير المتناهي للمشاريع الضخمة القائمة مثل مشروع ممر الشمال الجنوب ومبادرة الحزام والطريق، وجعلتهما أولوية. وفي هذا الصدد وبجهود الخبراء الإيرانيين والتعاون المشترك بين إيران وروسيا، دخل استكمال خط سكة حديد ممر الشمال الجنوب مرحلة التنفيذ، الأمر الذي يساعد في تحسين سلاسل التوريد العالمية واستقرارها وتحقيق الأمن لدول المنطقة. ولكن بوجود إدارة أمريكية توسعية عابثة ومولعة بشن حروب عبثية وإزهاق الأرواح وتدمير الحضارات والثقافات المتنوعة وخصوصياتها، هل ستدع هذه المنظومات الحيوية والمنطقة وشأنها، أم ستعبث معها بحروب مفتعلة بالوكالة؟ من كل الميادين، سلاما وتحية، في أمان الله.